This will grow your faith. Watch this.
Make room for more. It's easy to get stuck in life and think we've reached our limits. This is as happy as I'll ever be and as much as I'll ever have. I've gone as far as my background allows. But God didn't create us to reach one level and get stuck. The psalmist said, open your mouth wide and God will fill it. The key is you have to make room for God to increase you. In your thinking, you have to enlarge your vision. Raise your level of expectancy. Don't go into a new year with an old mindset. And yes, it's good to be content. It's important to be grateful, but you shouldn't be satisfied. There needs to be something you're believing for that you can't accomplish on your own. It stretches your faith, where you get up in the morning thanking God that He's opening new doors, causing you to excel with more talent, more creativity, more influence. The scripture talks about how God has blessings stored up for the righteous. There are blessings that have your name on them. They already belong to you, but they're in storage. There's healing with your name on it. There's abundance, a paid-off house. There's promotion, a book, a big business. There's a spouse, a baby. How do you get it out of storage? Number one, you keep God first place. You honor Him. And number two, you have to make room for it. Is there any capacity in your thinking for God to do greater things? Not ordinary, not what the circumstances tell you, but something uncommon. To live debt-free, to break the addiction, to see your children back on course, to run your own business. If you'll open your mouth wide, God will fill it. He has unlimited resources. The supply is never the problem, it's our capacity to receive. If you think you'll barely get by, and I don't know, Joel, this problem's big, and I'm not that talented, and I never get any good breaks, your mouth is too small. Your vision is limiting your life. Make some room. God, I believe you have greater things in store. I know your face is shining on me, that I live under the open windows of heaven. I believe it's going to be a blessed, favor-filled year. That's creating space. That's giving God room to show out in your life. If you've been dealing with an illness a long time, it's easy to accept it. Think that's the way it's always going to be. No, you need to make room for health. God is still in the healing business. He's called Jehovah Rapha, the Lord our healer. It may have been that way for years, but this is your year to get well, to see a divine turnaround. If you're struggling in your finances, don't get stuck in a rut. I'll never have enough. I'm at a disadvantage. Nobody in my family can get ahead. God has ways to bless you that you can't see right now. He brought a coin out of a fish's mouth to pay taxes for Peter. He sent quail into the desert to feed 2 million people. He gave us the funds to buy the Compact Center. He has supernatural provision. Is there any room in your thinking? Are you believing for greater things, expecting God's favor? Or have you let doubt, discouragement, delays take up all the space in your mind? Jesus could not do any miracles in his hometown because of their unbelief. There was no room. They thought, we know this man Jesus. We grew up with him. He's nothing special. He can't do miracles. Their limited mindset limited their life. Don't let that be you. A while back, I ordered some exercise equipment. I'd been using the same bench and workout machine at home for almost 30 years. This company was scheduled to come and put down a new rubber floor. They were backed up and weren't going to be there for a month. All my equipment was coming the next week. A bunch of boxes and crates that you had to assemble. I was planning on storing it in the garage where Jonathan used to park when he lived at home. The problem was, over the last 5 years, that garage has been turned into a storage room with all kinds of old stuff, old landscape lights from a couple trees that blew down in a storm, old parts of an AC unit, bikes that had flat tires we hadn't ridden in 20 years. I was keeping just in case we needed them. There was an old ladder, rickety, top rung, broken off, not safe. always planning to give it to Paul, but I kept putting it off. I finally came to the point, if I'm going to receive this new equipment that I really want, I'm going to have to make room for it. I got to clean out all this junk that's taking up the valuable space. Well, it's the same principle in our mind. Sometimes we're holding on to things we don't need, and it's taking up space for the new things God has in store. There's no capacity for increase. Maybe we're holding on to doubt. It's not going to happen for me, Joel. I'm not that talented. I've had a lot of bad breaks. Do yourself a favor. Clean out the doubt. That's taking up space for good breaks, for open doors, for promotion. Some people are holding on to unforgiveness, thinking about how they hurt me and they did me wrong. I'm a victim. All that negativity is keeping you from the restoration, the new beginnings, the beauty for ashes. It's not that God doesn't want to, but there's no room. Pay attention to what's taking space in your mind. Maybe we're letting insecurity, inferiority take up all this room. I'm not attractive. I don't have a good personality. I'm too short. I'm not as smart as my cousins. You need to get that junk out of your garage. God says you're a masterpiece, that you are fearfully and wonderfully made, that you have royal blood flowing through your veins, that He's crowned you with His favor. As long as you keep the insecurity, feeling not valuable, there's no room for the confidence, the favor that God has for you. He needs capacity to show you His goodness. What's occupying your space? Doubt, worry, can't do it, not enough, problem too big. It's time for a cleaning. I met this couple after the service. They had both been raised in very low income families. All they saw growing up was not enough, struggle, trying to survive. What we've seen modeled and how we were raised often becomes normal to us. It's what we expect. We don't realize it's a limited mindset. It's keeping us from rising higher. And that's why it's so important to go back to God's Word and find out who you really are. Life will try to define you. People, circumstances will put labels on you, try to convince you to take on that identity, who they say you are. Average, undisciplined, angry, inferior, unattractive. If you don't know better, those lies will take up all the valuable space in your mind. There's no room for God to work. That's why we make that declaration every service. I am who God says I am. I am blessed, prosperous, forgiven, talented, well able. That's clearing out the negative. Well, this couple was told by their parents that they would always struggle like they had and never have enough. That's just who they are. The grandparents of the woman said, all you'll have in life is beans and rice, but that's good enough. They meant well. They were saying, don't expect too much. We made it on beans and rice, and you can too. But can I tell you, beans and rice is not your destiny. That may have been what you've seen, but that's not who you are. You're a barrier breaker. You're a new generation. You know more so you can do more. You believe bigger so you can live bigger. God said in Hosea, my people are destroyed for a lack of knowledge. If you think beans and rice is your destiny, then you'll live lacking, struggling, hoping to get by. But when you realize God created you in His own image, He said you would reign in life as a king, that you are the head and not the tail, that you will lend and not borrow, that whatever you touch will prosper and succeed. That's not being arrogant. That's not being greedy. That's believing you are who God says you are. Well, this couple started watching us on television, and their thinking began to change. That didn't set well with them, that they would always struggle and never have enough. They started believing that they were children of the Most High, that although they may be limited, He is unlimited, that He can open doors no person can shut, that He makes rivers in the desert. Now, instead of all the doubt and negativity they had been programmed with, there was faith, expectancy. Instead of talking defeat, They started declaring God's promises over their life. What were they doing? Creating capacity to receive. If you'll open your mouth wide, God will fill it. Well, this couple took a step of faith, and on very normal incomes, they started building a house. Man was in construction. Whenever they had extra funds, they would hire contractors, buy more supplies, just little by little. Well, a couple of years later, he said, Joel, we can't explain it, but we moved into this beautiful new house in a great neighborhood, all debt-free. On paper, it didn't make sense, but God knows how to multiply what you have. His favor will cause you to defy the odds. A few years after that, they sold the house for twice what they had built it for. The wife told me something that I'll never forget. She said, Joel, my grandparents told me all we'd ever have were beans and rice, but I always knew one day we would have steak. If you're going to see those blessings that are stored up for you, you have to do like her and take the limits off. Enlarge your vision. Don't let how you were raised, what was passed down, what somebody said, even mistakes you've made, convince you to settle for beans and rice, to live with the illness, to never be free from the depression, to always be lonely. You have to stir your faith up. Nothing wrong with beans and rice, but how about some enchiladas? How about some fajitas? How about some chili con queso? You have to make room for more. And I know we're all grateful for what God has done. We're content in every situation, but that doesn't mean you're supposed to be satisfied. If you quit stretching, believing, expecting, then you are limiting your life. Is there any capacity for God to do something greater? Something other people would never believe could happen? That's what faith is. It's capacity. It's saying, God, I'm open. I know you have greater things in store.
Release your faith. Believe God for bigger things and you see His hand manifest in your life. Thanks for watching. Keep it at Kingdom Work. God bless you.